Faith requires action because faith without movement is merely a thought, a hope, or an intention. Action is the evidence of belief. It's the outward expression of an inward conviction. Too often we talk about faith as if it's a passive state of waiting, a quiet posture of expectation. But true faith is dynamic. It's alive, vibrant, and relentless. Faith is not just about standing still and believing, it's about stepping forward, even when you don't see the whole staircase. When you truly have faith, it compels you to act. It pushes you out of your comfort zone and into the unknown, because faith isn't tied to certainty, it thrives in uncertainty. If you can see everything clearly and control every outcome, it's not faith, it's strategy. Faith demands that you trust in something bigger than yourself, bigger than your plans, and often bigger than your understanding. Think about the farmer who plants seeds in the ground. He doesn't sit idle after planting, staring at the soil and hoping for a harvest to appear magically. No, he waters, he weeds, he nurtures the land, and he works tirelessly because his actions are a declaration of his belief in the process. The same is true in our lives. We cannot expect the seeds of our dreams, visions, or goals to grow if we aren't willing to put in the work to cultivate them. Faith-driven action is about stepping out even when the odds seem stacked against you. It's applying for the job you don't feel qualified for. It's starting the business with limited resources. It's walking into spaces where you feel like an outsider because you believe there's a purpose for you there. Faith demands courage because the actions it requires often come with risks of failure, risks of rejection, risks of uncertainty, but without those risks, there's no reward. There's a story in every person's life where they had to take that leap of faith, and it was the leap, not the safety net, that changed their trajectory. The leap taught them resilience, perseverance, and trust. Faith doesn't promise that the road will be easy, but it promises that the journey will be worth it. The act of moving forward despite obstacles is what strengthens your faith and builds your character. Faith-driven action also requires patience and persistence. There will be times when you don't see results immediately. You'll question whether the steps you're taking are leading anywhere at all. But that's where faith's true power lies, in continuing to act even when there's no visible sign of progress. It's in those moments of perseverance that breakthroughs often happen. It's in the willingness to keep showing up, keep trying, and keep believing that the miracle begins to unfold. Ultimately, faith and action are inseparable. You can't have one without the other. Faith gives you the vision, action makes it real. Faith is the fuel, but action is the vehicle that moves you forward. It's not enough to believe in your heart, you must also move with your hands and feet. Faith calls you to prepare for what you're expecting, to align your actions with your beliefs, and to walk boldly towards your destiny, trusting that every step is guided. Risk is the bridge to purpose, because every worthwhile journey demands that you leave the safety of the familiar and step into the unknown. Purpose, by its very nature, lies on the other side of your comfort zone. It's not something that comes to you while you stay rooted in the routines and patterns that keep you safe. No, purpose calls you to stretch, to dare, and to walk paths that others are too afraid to tread. And the only way to answer that call is to take risks. Think of risk as the price of admission to a life of meaning and fulfillment. When you embrace risk, you're not simply gambling with your future, you're investing in it. Risk doesn't mean acting recklessly or without thought. It means making bold decisions despite uncertainty. It means choosing courage over fear and possibility over predictability. Every time you take a risk, you are choosing to believe in the promise of what could be, rather than settling for the reality of what is. Without risk, there is no growth. Think about the great innovators, creators, and leaders of the world. None of them achieved greatness by staying within the boundaries of what was known and comfortable. They risked failure, rejection, criticism, and loss to pursue something greater than themselves. They understood that playing it safe might protect them from harm, but it would also prevent them from reaching their potential. Risk is not about being fearless, it's about acting in spite of your fear. It's about standing on the edge of the unknown and saying, I don't know what's on the other side, but I'm willing to find out. Fear is often a sign that you're heading in the right direction, because fear accompanies the things that matter. If it doesn't scare you a little, it's probably not big enough to change your life. Risk is also deeply personal. What feels like a massive leap for one person might seem like a small step for another. But the size of the risk isn't what matters, it's the willingness to take it. It's the decision to step into the arena knowing that you might fail, but also knowing that failure is part of the process. Risk teaches you resilience. It strengthens your resolve and refines your vision. With every step you take, you become more prepared for the purpose that awaits you. The bridge of risk is often shaky and uncertain. It doesn't promise guarantees or smooth sailing. There will be moments when you second guess yourself, wondering if you made the right choice. There will be times when the voices of doubt, whether from within or from others, will try to convince you to turn back. But the thing about a bridge is that it's designed to take you from one place to another. The purpose isn't on the bridge, it's on the other side. Every significant moment in your life will likely involve a decision that feels risky. Saying yes to an opportunity that scares you, walking away from something that no longer serves you, or pursuing a dream that seems impossible. All of these involve risk. But they also involve stepping closer to your purpose. Purpose isn't found in the easy or the obvious. It's discovered in the moments when you choose to believe in what you can't yet see. Risk demands sacrifice. It might mean letting go of security, comfort, or even the approval of others. It might mean walking away from what you built to create something better. But with every risk, you are telling yourself in the world that your purpose is worth it. That the life you are called to live is worth more than the life you're leaving behind. Taking risks isn't about having it all figured out. It's about starting with what you have, where you are, and trusting that each step you take will reveal the next. Risk is the catalyst for transformation, the spark that ignites change, and the path that leads to discovery. You may not always succeed in the way you hope, but every risk brings you closer to the person you're meant to be and the purpose you're meant to fulfill. Growth demands disruption because real progress is never birthed in the comfort of the familiar. Change and growth are inherently uncomfortable because they require us to break away from the routines, habits, and mindsets that have kept us in the same place. Disruption is the catalyst for transformation, and without it, we remain stagnant, confined to the limits of what we already know and what we've already experienced. Disruption forces you to confront the very things that make you uneasy. It interrupts the flow of your predictable life and demands that you deal with the tension between where you are and where you want to be. Growth isn't polite or passive. It doesn't wait for the perfect time or ideal circumstances. Growth knocks down walls, shakes up systems, and challenges you to reevaluate everything you thought you knew. It often feels inconvenient, even painful, because it uproots the stability that we so often cling to. But think about nature itself. A seed cannot grow into a tree unless the shell around it is broken. That disruption is not gentle, It's a breaking apart, a tearing away of what no longer serves the seed's potential. In the same way, every period of growth in your life will require you to break free from something. It might be an old way of thinking, a relationship that no longer supports you, or a job that keeps you playing small. Whatever it is, you have to be willing to let it go to make room for what's next. A disruption challenges your identity. It asks, who are you without the things you've become accustomed to it? It strips away the external markers of success and comfort, forcing you to dig deeper into your true potential. This is why growth can feel so unsettling. It's not just about achieving more or doing better, it's about becoming someone new. That process of becoming is messy and unpredictable, but it's also where the magic happens. In the face of disruption, our first instinct is often resistance. We want to hold on to the way things are, even when they're no longer serving us, because familiarity feels safe. But safety is an illusion when it comes to growth. The longer you resist disruption, the longer you delay your progress. Growth demands that you lean into the discomfort, that you embrace the uncertainty, and that you trust the process even when you don't understand it. Every major breakthrough in your life will likely be preceded by a period of disruption. Think about the moments that changed you, the challenges that stretched you, the setbacks that made you reevaluate, the losses that forced you to rebuild. Those weren't just random events, they were opportunities for growth disguised as obstacles. The disruption wasn't there to destroy you, it was there to develop you. Disruption creates space for creativity and innovation. When the old ways no longer work, you're forced to think differently, to try new approaches, and to explore possibilities you wouldn't have considered otherwise. It's in those moments of upheaval that you discover strengths you didn't know you had and solutions you didn't know existed. Disruption shakes you out of complacency and pushes you toward your highest potential. Growth through disruption also requires a shift in mindset. You have to stop seeing disruption as something to fear and start seeing it as something to embrace. It's not a punishment, it's a process. It's not an ending, it's a beginning. When you change the way you view disruption, you unlock its power to transform your life. Disruption doesn't always come in dramatic forms. Sometimes it's subtle, a quiet nudge that tells you it's time for a change, a small voice that challenges you to think bigger, or an unexpected opportunity that takes you in a new direction. But whether big or small, disruption is always an invitation to grow. It's a call to leave behind the old and step into the new, even when it feels uncertain. The truth is, you cannot have growth without disruption. You cannot reach new heights while holding on to old habits. You cannot become the person you're meant to be while clinging to the person you've always been. Growth demands that you disrupt the status quo, that you break through the barriers of comfort and familiarity, and that you rise to the challenge of becoming more. In the end, growth is not just about reaching a destination, it's about embracing the journey, disruptions and all. It's about recognizing that every challenge, every obstacle, and every uncomfortable moment is shaping you into the person you are meant to become. Growth demands disruption because it knows that staying the same is not an option when greatness is calling your name. So when life shakes you, when your plans fall apart, and when the path forward seems uncertain, remember this disruption is not your enemy, it's your ally. It's the force that propels you towards your purpose, the fire that refines you, the process that transforms your life. Embrace it. Trust it. And let it push you into the extraordinary. because on the other side of disruption lies the growth you've been waiting for. G,